Rev up your engines. Here we have a Lexus. These things can last an awful long time. There's no arguing it. And this is an ES350. They're pretty solid built vehicles. All right, you can see it's typical. The seat's worn out. You can get some good seat covers for it. That's not a deal breaker. The interior still looks pretty good. Starts right up. Look under the hood. The strut is worn out. So we're gonna get a stick. No, so far it sounds pretty normal. He says he hears a noise a lot of times when it's cold and starting up. Now it's often typical on these engines as they age. The time you change tensioner is oil pressure activated. When it's cold, you don't have warm oil, it's not warmed up. A lot of times you'll hear a noise, then it'll go away when it warms up. It's really typical on these. If it's gonna run good and the data on the computer says it's okay, a lot of guys will live with that rather than tearing the engine apart. Because you tear the engine apart, one, it costs a lot of money. Two, the tensioner's worn, the chain's probably worn. You have to replace the chain, that's thousands of dollars. I think a lot of guys will live with that. We'll look at the data once we hook up the computer. First thing we're gonna do is hook up the fancy scan tool, see what's left of this engine. We got the Autel hooked up, and it already knows it's read the VIN, and we'll do a full scan of it now. Coming up with a bunch of trouble codes here. 22 fault codes. Now, system to lean bank 1, system to lean bank 2, system to lean bank 1, system lean. So it's obviously running lean. The ABS system is a malfunction. Tire pressure monitors, we don't care about that. You get a pressure gauge for that. Air conditioner, the solar sensor circuits aren't working right, but it's blowing nice and cold, so we really don't care about that. And as these things age, it has problems with the adaptive front headlighting systems. They always break on these things. That's something you'll live with. What we're going to be interested in, why this thing is running lean. Nice machine tells us it can be anything from the air induction system, injector blockers, mass airflow sensor, engine coolant temperature sensor, fuel pressure, gas leakage from the exhaust system, open and short in the air fuel ratio sensor 1, air fuel sensor 1 bad, air fuel sensor heater sensor 1 bad, EFI relay, AF sensor heater, and EFI relay, PCV velvet hose, PCV hose connectors, or the main computer. Any of those things can make them run lean. What we're gonna do is look at live data. Here we go, live data to try to figure out why it's running lean. Go looking through the data. Bank 1, sensor 1, the long-term fuel trim, it is adding 27.3%. And on bank 2, it's also adding 27.3%. Both banks are adding the same exact extra amount of fuel. Now it's running too good to have a massive air leak. I'd feel it. It idles fine. It's not shaking or anything. So whoever's making it run lean can be low fuel pressure. It can't be like one injector because it's got 6 injectors and they're all not going to wear out so that they have the same exact fuel trim on each side. It's something that feeds the system. So let's look at the mass airflow sensor. Here's the data. 2.9, 2.89. Let's rev it up. It's reacting correctly, but as you can see when we're at idle, it's saying 2.3 grams per second. And like I said, there's no vacuum leaks. I don't hear them hissing, but it idles so good. If it had a vacuum leak, it'd idle like crap. So it's not a vacuum leak. Now this is a 3.5 liter engine. To have that low, it should be close to 3.5 grams per second, and it's not. So I would say it's probably a good idea to replace the mass airflow sensor. But let's see if there's any other squirrely data. Remember, it's color coded. We'll see if there's any squirrely data here. And now look. Now it's 1.84. That's insanely low. So you can see that's way too low, okay? That makes sense. That could be any of the running lean. It doesn't run that bad, that's the thing. He does live in Tennessee, so he doesn't have to get it inspected for emissions. So it doesn't matter if the check engine light is on. And we'll see how it goes when we take it on the road. After we start checking out everything else, too. Now, this looks pretty normal. Throttle position sensor's working. Transmission's working good, so let's take it for a spin. Now, this does have these sticky dash. It's kind of like the La Brea tire pits in LA. Sometimes you can grumble at them, they'll give you another one. They do make covers you can cover them up with, and that's my advice. So far, hey, it's not running bad at all. We'll take it on the road to our little drag strip and see how it accelerates, but hey, for a $4,500 Lexus, it really seems to be running pretty smooth. Now, what you have to understand about these cars is this. If you live in a state like Tennessee that doesn't do emissions testing, you don't care. He doesn't have to fix anything, as far as I'm concerned, yet, because it runs good enough, right? But he could never get it inspected because the mass airflow data is wrong, it's running too lean, and it would not pass any emissions test. Then you might have to spend a whole bunch of money. You never know. Could theoretically be lots of things. But here in Tennessee, no one cares because they don't inspect cars, and a lot of states are getting rid of their car emissions. $4,500 Lexus that runs good, not a bad deal. It's fine, nobody's coming. Here we go to a little drag strip. Hopefully he's not enough gas or he's going to be pushing the lights on. All right, here we go. We'll see how the engine and transmission work. These are pretty good engines, pretty good transmissions. So nobody's behind us. Come to a stop, and here we go. Shifts like a dream. The engine sounds strong. Nothing wrong with the engine or transmission. The drivetrain's an excellent. I don't hear any CV joint damage. I don't hear any wheel bearings humming. These things can last a really long time. And if you live in some place like Tennessee where you don't care that these stupid lights are coming on, hey, you can live without it. Now, it is running lean, but here's the thing. I'm going to tell them first to just change the air filter. And if it runs good enough and gets good gas mileage, I would then say, don't mess with it, because it's not like it doesn't accelerate. You step on the gas, away it goes. It's not hesitating. If you fix and it's not running as lean, you might end up getting 4 or 5 miles a gallon worse gas mileage. If they run lean, you're going to get a lot better gas mileage. So that's what he's going to try. So there you have it. He paid $4,500 for this car, and it still runs like a dream. Yeah, it's running lean, but you get a little bit better gas mileage, and nothing's really acting up on it. He's a student. He doesn't have much money, right? He can polish these headlights to make them look better. He's going to do a brake job himself because the pads are getting thin. These old ones are easier to work on. That's why I tell people, get a 3 Series Lexus. If you're going to get a 4 Series Lexus, the brake master cylinder goes, it's part of a computer system, and it'd be $1,700 just for the part. This is a 3 Series V6. I can get a brake master cylinder for $150. You're much better off with a 3 Series as long as you get it checked out. And this one's in pretty good shape. Hey, for $4,500, run it smooth, tranny shift's good, engine runs good. Not that bad of a deal. Just don't expect perfection. And if you do live in an area that does emissions testing, and you find a guy like me to check it out, and he says, well, it's got these codes and it won't pass, then say, all right, how much would I have to spend to get it to pass emissions? And then you would take that off the asking price of the vehicle, and the person would have to do it because they know you can't drive it on the street unless it's legally inspected. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Well, I couldn't resist this one. Here we have the Taliban in a Toyota pickup truck. And the title of the article is, In Conflicts Around the World, the Toyotas of War Rule. Well, they did. My son had 2 tours in Afghanistan. He said all Taliban were running around in Toyota pickups. And a lot of them are diesels, which they don't sell in the United States. But the thing is, they're so dependable, even the Taliban knows that. And kind of as a side, when my son was there, they delivered in the Chinook helicopters, the Stanley Cup to the Canadian troops. So I told a friend of mine, Craig, in Toronto, I said, hey, my son's helicopter delivered the Stanley Cup to the Canadian troops. You know what he said? He said, oh, great. He said, now even the Taliban is closer to the Stanley Cup than the Toronto Maple Leafs. Who, of course, haven't won a Stanley Cup in, like 50 years. And they keep choking every year. There's so much pressure on them. They just keep choking the poor guys. It's the wealthiest hockey team in the world. Everybody's nuts about hockey in Toronto, but the team keeps choking. And the owners keep doing the wrong thing, right? They keep paying all these high-scoring guys money, not realizing high scoring does not win Stanley Cups. Defense and goalies do. And they never have a goalie who's good enough to win. So they pay all their money to guys like Austin Matthew, who, in the playoffs, they're nothing yet. They score a lot of goals. They're just like a baseball player that hits 350, and then in the World Series, they hit 20 or 100. They can't even bat their own weight because they're chokers, right? Well, even all the terrorists of the world, they realize, hey, you want dependability? Get yourself a Toyota. Now, it doesn't bode well for Toyota advertising. I'm sure they don't want pictures of Taliban riding around their Toyotas all over the place. But Toyotas even rule the terrorist world. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.